All right. All right. Hope you had a good weekend, a good Lord's Day, a good Easter Sunday, all that kind of thing. I had a good weekend, definitely. My wife is a little over 40 weeks pregnant, and so we were hoping that this weekend would be the weekend that we'd have a new son in our hands, but unfortunately not. So we're just gonna have to play the waiting game. Also, we went to a sporting goods store and bought a bunch of baseball stuff for the kids, and I've got good news to report. My 8-year-old, last year started a little bit rough, throwing, catching, all that kind of stuff. And towards the end of the year, we got a little bit better, was more consistent with his throwing, not scared of the ball as much with catching. Anyway, so we threw the ball around and we graduated to a real baseball. We threw the ball around on Saturday, and over the winter, something just clicked with him. I guess he just understands that. I don't know. I don't know what happened because we didn't work on anything over the winter, but he's throwing really well. He's catching really well. It's all good now. So good stuff. Good stuff. So I was going to do a video today about how it's not that, guys like me are intentionally offensive. It's just that we intentionally don't seek to soften everything, and people just aren't used to that. We're, when we say that transsexuals, transvestites is really what they are, belong in mental institutions. That's not like I'm not trying to be offensive there. It's just I'm not trying to hide what the truth is. The truth is that they're insane. They're out of their minds. They're demon possessed, and we need to put those people away, in a place where they're not, in seats of influence, or we're not taking them seriously because they're out of their ever-loving minds. Like that's not intentionally offensive. It's just I'm not trying to hide the truth, and people just really aren't used to that. And as part of this video, I'm still gonna do this video because Andrew Torbo was saying some things this weekend that I thought were great. And people were clutching their pearls. Oh, how dare you! How dare you say this about the Pharisees? It's like literally people were simping for the Pharisees this weekend. Anyway, but what I did was I went back to my old emails from 2018 or so. Yeah, 2018. And there was one email from a Gospel Coalition influencer who wrote me he was clutching his pearls real hard. And he was telling me that, it's that I'm intentionally offensive, stuff like that. Anyway, I didn't find that email. It must have been like a Facebook conversation or something like that because I couldn't find it in my email. But I distinctly remember him saying that. But what I did find was something that I forgot about. And I don't know why I never caught this, but here's something you might not know about me. So when I left New York City, I did that. I left my job. I did it for an unpaid internship with a Big Eva guy who was a pastor of a church at the time, and he had, advertised this unpaid sort of like pastoral residency thing so he could teach you how to be a pastor and all that kind of thing. And anyway, I applied to it and I got it. And so I left my job and I went to Vermont to do this. And hold on one second. Oh, that's terrible. Man, I just got some terrible news on a text message. I need a minute. Hold on. Yeah. I'm going to continue the video, but a friend of mine just sent me a really sad text message. Anyway, okay. Okay. So let's continue. Where was I? Oh, I found an email. Right. So I found an email from this guy who he disowned me after I dared to criticize Matt Chandler. And if you look at my 2018, 2017 videos and you watch them, I want you to do that. Go watch an old video. You will see how tame they are. Like I was in every video, like if I was going to criticize Russell Moore, Matt Chandler, I would always start the video and I would say how great they were. Oh, I love Russell Moore and I love Matt Chandler. They're just gifts to the church. And I would use all the standard Big Eva speak. You know how it goes. I'm so grateful for their ministry and all this kind of stuff. And then I would say, but this isn't quite right. And then I'd go into it. And I wouldn't. It's not that I would pull any punches necessarily, but I wouldn't sugarcoat it. I'd say, look, Matt Chandler's great. He's a wonderful gift to the church, blah, blah, blah. But this is not correct. This is wrong. This is evil, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, because I did that, this guy disowned me. And I never quite caught this, or at least I forgot about this, but one of the things he told me, he says one of the things that hurt him so much was that he befriended me, he invested in me, and he gave me opportunities. That's something that I hadn't thought about in a long time. He was very upset that he gave me opportunities, and I didn't, and then I kind of just I didn't do what he wanted me to do. It's not like I disowned him or started ripping him or criticizing him. It's not that. It's just that he didn't want me to insult Matt Chandler. He didn't want me, and by insult, I don't mean actually insult. I mean like criticize him, say he was wrong about white privilege or something like that. He was offended that he had given me opportunities and I didn't do what he wanted me to do. I forgot about that. And honestly, this is how it works. Like they've got control of this of the institutions. They've got control of who gets the blogging opportunities. And that's what he was talking about. It was about his blog. He had a blog that he had started, and he had given me the opportunity to write for this Big Eva blog, which I did. I wrote like 3 or 4 articles or something like that. You can't find them online because they've since been, black holed, memory hold. But that's how they own people, right? Because it's very hard to kind of, if you wanted to go into ministry, right? If you're trying to be in ministry, they want you to think that it's very hard, if not impossible, to do that without their help, without their guild approval, without their blogging opportunities, conference gigs, things like that. And I remember, I distinctly remember this, him telling me, and this wasn't like an evil, dark room, with smoke and stuff like that. But I remember it striking me at the time, and this was before I was who I am today. Like I was a young guy, wide-eyed, that kind of thing. And he said something about getting my name out there. And I was like, getting my name out there? I was like, I'm not trying to get my name out there. This is young me. The young me. I wasn't trying to get my name out there. I was like, I just want to see if I want to become a pastor. Like, I didn't think that was about getting your name out there. And it was just kind of an off-the-cuff comment. It wasn't like, it didn't really mean anything, but it was just something he said. And I was just like, that's interesting. That's interesting. Like, I did write for, I had an opportunity to write some articles that I thought were helpful. I wrote a few articles that I thought were helpful. They were helpful. They were about like Mormonism or something like that. Anyway, so I just found that interesting. It's like, this is how they own people. They pretend like they have the keys to your, I guess, success in ministry. And they don't. They simply don't. So if you understand that Big Eva has kind of jumped the shark, they've had their moment, and they're just, right now they're just a tool for the enemy in so many ways. It's so many ways. It's just so crazy. At a time when we should be kind of galvanizing our positions, like the world has gone absolutely insane, but we have the antidote, right? We have the truth. We have the real narratives. In a world full of false narratives, we have the real narrative. And what you're spending your time doing is, it's okay to support a party that wants to trans everybody and they're perverted in every way and normalize every perversion and kill as many babies as possible and everything. Like, there's just no redeeming quality. Everything that they do is just pure evil. It's just so crazy. Anyway. So I think you get my point. And so, speaking of all that, let's continue with Gospel Coalition. Let's do it. All right. Let's find where we are here. Okay. How should Christians care about I almost used the Big Eva word, engage. How should Christians care about the environment? Good faith debate. So the conversation is just about to get a little spicier, I think. We're going to do some cross-talk, some cross-examination, at least the Big Eva, ridiculous version of it.
He acknowledges the difficulties in predicting the future, and that was one of the main points you were trying to make, and how we can really know what's going on. But I am curious, at a basic level, do you agree with the greenhouse effect, the glaciers, the premise that this world is getting warmer?
So this is where he expects in in a good faith debate, this is where the conservative is supposed to give ground. Oh yes, the greenhouse effect is very dangerous, and it's just the carbon credits. This is where he's supposed to give ground. Is he going to do that? Man, this is a tough call. Because I want to say yes, because that's what he's there for. That's why Gospel Coalition invites people, so that they can give ground. But he's been so good. He's been so good. So on the one hand, I could look at what he's done so far. On the other hand, I can use my brain and say, this is what Gospel Coalition is for. It's to normalize insanity. I'm going to go with my gut. My gut says he's going to give ground. He's going to say, the greenhouse effect, the world is warming due to human interactions. How dare we think of the children?
Present problems.
I accept the premise that the climate is changing, and I certainly agree with the greenhouse effect. I think that the scientific debate at the highest levels is what portion of the carbon output is anthropogenic. So
I gotta give him credit, man. You know, I should have. Something inside me told me he would not give a lot of ground, and I'm grateful he really didn't, because what he said is something that essential. I wouldn't say exactly like he said. I accept that the climate is changing. So do I. I accept that climate changes. That's just part of the way of things. That's just how it is. Number two, he accepts the greenhouse effect. Okay, he accepts the greenhouse effect. I mean, I feel like, unfortunately, something as basic as the greenhouse effect has become, a bit of a loaded term. So, you know, I wouldn't want to necessarily just say it that way, but that's fine the way he said it, because he instantly said, I think that it's debatable. That at the very least, he said it's debatable how much humans are contributing to the greenhouse effect. Good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
is it our portion of carbon emissions that is the proverbial straw, on the camel's back that is going to lead to these cascading catastrophes? I think that's the question, and I think it is actually still debatable. And so I'm not nearly as worried as Jake is about the litany of catastrophes. So I don't deny that at all. The question is, what are we going to do about it? And I'm
gonna tell you, man. I know I keep saying it, and I keep being surprised, because it's surprising. This is Gospel Coalition we're talking about here. This is Gospel Coalition, where basically every male that comes up here has the gay lisp. You know what I mean? Metaphorically speaking, of course, and sometimes for real, as we can see with Meader. He's brutal, man. I am not nearly as worried about this as Jake is. And it's like that like low key just is like that's a slap in the face to Jake. Like, you're Chicken Little and I'm not. That's basically what he's saying, in a nice way. He's saying it in a way that has, a little bit of winsomeness to it, you might say. Good faith. I'm not nearly as worried about this as that guy over there who's just afraid of his shadow. Is how it comes off. At least that's, to me, it comes off that way.
I didn't hear Jake really answer your last question, which was, what are you going to do about China? And it sounded to me, Jake, like you were saying, well, they're really going to suffer too, so they're going to come to their senses, or on burning coal, or are they just... It seems to me the intractable problem, if the goal is we are going to reduce global greenhouse emissions, if you have a rogue, this is not just any old rogue state, right? This is one of the largest countries in the world, largest population, is
largest economy too, if I'm not mistaken.
Burning carbon fuels, fossil fuels. That seems to me a big problem for our solutions, and I think that you may be right that doesn't absolve us, but at the same time, I wonder again about the just war thing. Okay. We're talking about inflicting real, serious, known economic harm on ourselves for projected, uncertain harms in the future. I think that's something that we need to think about. How do we navigate that ethically? We know we're going to harm our own economy and the developing world for something uncertain. And the China problem is just a real problem if the goal is global reduction.
What's interesting too is that you hurt your own economy, and I'm not like crazy about this line of attack on Mattson's part. Like it's all right. I mean, I'm not going to criticize him for it. He's in the debate. I'm not crazy about it, but he's right. I agree with what he's saying. But what's interesting about it is you hurt your own economy, and when you do that, you actually make yourself more at the mercy of China than you used to be. So it's interesting. Like the more you hurt yourself, the more you rely on others, and the others, I mean, let's just face it, economically the other is China, so you're more at their mercy than you used to be. It's a very interesting game that they're playing here. It's a very interesting, set of circumstances, in my opinion. But I gotta hand it to Mattson. He's going right at Jake. It's like, if you ever want to see like what it's like to can't even when you're winsome, when you're Big Eva, if you want to can't even, like you've had it up to here and you just can't even. I don't even know why I said that. I hate that phrase. I really do. This guy is not taking any of Jake's stuff, if you know what I mean. He's not interested in taking it. This is what it looks like when you're fed up with your opponent. You just like, I'm not going to play with you, Jake, in a winsome way. This man is not playing Jake's little stupid games in a winsome way. Hats off to him, man, really.
Of fossil fuels.
Well, I did. So this connects with your example of those in the developing countries suffering for our sins. You just made the case the cost to us is great and them with an uncertain outcome. How does that land on you?
Yeah, so just to circle back to China, because what I was trying to say perhaps didn't get it across well. They're not going to be able to keep doing that forever, was part of the response.
Why is that?
Because they have a demographic crisis on their hands. They're an old...
So they won't have enough people to work in coal mines, or
their economy is not going to be able to continue to work the way it is now, 30 to 40 years from now, due to a lack of workers.
But that's too late by your own admission. Right? I mean, you've mentioned a whole bunch of things that are...
Bro, who is this guy? I can't even believe it. Like, I'm just... This is great. If the good faith debates were all like this, I wouldn't have a problem with them. This is really good. I'm not. Mattson is just not playing the game. He's not. And from what I understand, I've heard a few things about Mattson, and listen, I don't have to agree with everyone 100%. Nobody has to be perfect around me. I was going to do a video about this too, and maybe I will still. But I have very, very specific beliefs that I hold very strongly. I'm very hardcore, Calvinist, for example. I'm a very hardcore, theonomist, for example. I'm post-millennial, very hardcore about that. But the thing is, like, I don't expect everyone to be that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't expect, not everyone has to be post-millennial. And if you're not and you hate post-millennialism, we can actually still be friends a lot of the time, depending on how aggressive you get, of course. You don't like God's law, or at least the way I see it, to be nice to you. We can still be friends to some degree, So I've managed to figure out a way to like hold things very, very hard, or tightly, without casting everyone else into outer darkness. But the thing is, like I've heard some things about Mattson that make me wonder about him. And some people in the comments section were saying that he didn't like Stephen Wolf's book. I actually hadn't even heard that one. So there's other things that I've heard about Mattson. But this man, like, I feel like I could be friends with this guy. I don't know if he'd want to be friends with me, but I feel like I could be friends with him. He not only did he challenge Jake directly, which just does not happen in these things. Usually we get, "Oh, I'm so grateful for you." He challenged, but he interrupted him when he started to say something stupid. He interrupted him and said, "Well, hold on. You got to explain that one. You got to explain. Oh, by the way, your calamity that you predicted, your pagan eschatology, it's already too late for that, my friend. So what are you even talking about, Jake? He looks at this guy, and Jake gets his girl clothes on, and he puts his glasses on. You wouldn't punch a guy with glasses, would you? And Madsen's like, I don't care what you're wearing. I'm going to hit you. And I got to say, that is impressive. I'm thoroughly impressed. And, if I had people on the other side of the debate, like if people that were willing to act this way, like a man, play the man, have a problem with Stephen Wolf's book, I'm much more likely to take it seriously than if a guy like Jake Meader has a problem with it, because Jake Meader has a lot of other problems, and quite frankly, I don't care what you Jimmy crack corn, and I don't care. When you dress like a woman, honestly, I really don't care what you have to say, unless you're actually a woman. But in that case, it's slightly different. Why I might not care. There's a little red meat for you. Let's continue. I mean, this is the face of a man who's had it up to here with this effeminate nonsense. And I don't think he would ever admit that. I've never talked to Madsen, so I don't have any insight into what he's thinking here. But this man has had it. He's had it in a winsome way.
2050, the next 20, 30 years.
So
he's like, dude, enough of your he didn't even let him have it. He's like, oh, well, there's a demographic crisis, and they won't be able to do that because in the next 50 years, he's like, whoa, there, Susan. Listen, Susan, you said that in 20 years the Los Angeles is going to fall into the water. And it's like, so what difference does it make about China's demographic crisis? Explain that one to me, all right? By the way, the name Susan is a perfectly nice name.
A book. Oh,
I like the name
what's
Susan.
title? The Gardener's Dirty Hands, I think, by Noah Tolley. He was a Wheaton
Oh, sorry about that. Dropped my baseball.
prof for a number of years. He's now at Calvin. And Professor Tolley makes the argument. He said, we need to become more understanding of the fact that we're in a tragic circumstance. Tragedy is just endemic to being human in a fallen world.
Look at the way this, I'm no expert at body language yet. I'm not an expert. But just look at this, how he's sitting. First of all, he's got his little hands, cupped in front of him, protecting his manhood. I mean, there's something going on there. I know what people call that. I'm not going to say, this is a Christian channel, so I'm not going to talk about that. And then he's just kind of like, we got to be a little more protective of it. And it's just like, he looks like I'm serious. I'm serious. He looks like a boy who's been called to the principal's office, and the principal has said, what do you have to say for yourself? And he's just there. like this is a learned behavior. This is worked for Meader in the past, where people just look at him and they feel sorry for him, and they're like, oh, I guess I'm not gonna disagree. But we got to get over that, though. You got to get over that, because the left is using that against us in the church, where it's like, you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you? We need to be able to say, you know what? I don't care if you're wearing glasses or a dress. I'm going to hit you in the face if you're a man and you're coming in here bringing heresy into the church. Metaphorically speaking, of course, because I don't believe in punching people in the face for their arguments, obviously. But they do this. They'll throw women at you too. They'll make women the tip of the spear, to their shame. They'll put women out there taking all of the heat, right? They'll put women to take the heat. They'll put women as the lightning rod to attract all the electricity. And so what they're doing is they're daring you to oppose them. I dare you to oppose this woman, you big strong man. And what they are intending to do is they put women out there, and they put Jake Meader out there, so that you won't say too much, because if you do, you're going to look like a big meanie. You'll get an email from a Gospel Coalition guy saying how hurt they are. I'm going to read you this email one day. Oh, man. I'm hurt. I'm hurt that I gave you opportunities, and I befriended you, and this is how you repay me. They put that out there, and they put these wounded puppies out there. They put these women out there, and they expect you to just let it happen, because who wants to be the one opposing Rachel Den Hollander? Who wants to be the one opposing Rachel Den Hollander? But you've got to figure this one out. How to say, look, you're a lady, and I respect that, but sit down. This is not correct. This credible accusations, that's not how we do this in the church. That's not how we do it. And you get this Jacob guy covering his genitals and looking up like this, like a scared child. Oh, to China? And you got to say, I don't care how pathetic you look. I don't care how effeminate you present yourself. I don't care how other people see this as me beating up on a pathetic individual. You're wrong. Go home. Go home. We're not going to do the Green New Deal just because you look like a pathetic little, elf or something. Not really an elf, I guess. More like a hobbit, sort of. Hobbits are noble creatures, though, and Jake is a little snake.
I think by Noah Tolley. He was a Wheaton prof for a number of years. He's now at Calvin. And Professor Tolley makes the argument. He said, we need to become more understanding of the fact that we're in a tragic circumstance.
We're in a tragic circumstance? You ever see that meme where there's like everyone's smiling and like there's one guy that says something really stupid and the other two are just beating them and they're smiling too? It's like that's what you got to do. You got, metaphorically speaking, of course. We don't beat people. You got to be able to do that, guys. You got to be able to figure this one out. They use this as a weapon. They put women out there and they say, "I dare you to oppose Rachel Denhollander. She's an abuse victim. Did you know that? Did you know that? Now sit back and let it happen." That's what they want you to do. You can't do it. You can't do it. If Rachel Denhollander says something idiotic and she thinks that you should give up your attorney-client privilege, that's her professional legal advice. I'm not saying she did that, but if she were to do that, you look her in the face and say, "No, that's stupid. Now go home. Go home. If you want to talk, send your husband here and we'll have a chat." You got to be able to figure this one out, guys. And people are not going to be ready for it. They're going to think you're a big meanie. You're going to get an email, the clutching pearl email, from your highest level Big Eva contact. I've had a number of Big Eva operatives dispatched my way. I know how it goes. They expect they expect to say, "That's not Christ-like," and for you to cower and to melt into a puddle of goo. It's not Christ-like to say that. It's like, yeah, but what about when Christ said this? And like, well, then what do you think, you're Christ? And they expect you to melt into a puddle of goo. And you got to figure this one out, guys, because this is how they do it. This is a weapon. They use this pathetic individual as a weapon, and it's been effective for a long time. I think that time is over. I really do. Because when I see this face, I don't feel sorry for him. I don't feel like he's someone that I can't insult. I don't feel like any of that. I feel like, you know what? You're going to send a doughboy like this? Then we're going to have to hit him in the face. Metaphorically speaking, of course. I look at this face with contempt. Now, I don't feel sorry for him. The time of feeling sorry for this kind of a perspective is long since past. Long since past.
Tragedy is just endemic to being human in a fallen world. There are always possibilities that are unrealized.
And this is why we must all support the COVID vaccination programs, because we don't know the kind of dangers we're going to have. Oh, there might be a lion out in the streets, after all.
There's a certain tragedy in that. And there are trade-offs that are going to have to be made now where there are not easy, obviously perfect choices. And so, I mean, even in talking about the developing world, where Brian goes is, well, what about economic development there? And where my mind goes is, well, if you're living in Kuwait, their temperatures are getting up to 140 in the summers routinely, which it's always been hot, but it's not always been that hot. Those types of regions around the equator are going to get much hotter.
I wonder why God's judging Kuwait the way he is. I wonder why God is turning Kuwait into a desolation. if you go by his facts. Like let's just give him everything he said about the water, rising, and the heat, melting the sidewalks, all that stuff. The pyramids are gonna melt. Who knows what he's gonna say next? Let's just give it all to him. Let's not even argue it. The Christian question is, why would God be judging Kuwait? I'm pretty sure it's not because of carbon dioxide. Call me crazy.
Already are. We're not talking about 3-degree increase centuries from now. We're talking about it sooner than that. And we've already seen, I think we're at 2 degrees, if I recall correctly. And so there's going to be changes to the landscape.
Don't feel sorry for people like this. Look at this face. And don't you dare feel sorry for this man. Because your enemies will weaponize that. And eventually, you'll be ruled by people like this. I'm not saying that if you've got a guy and he's based and he loves the Lord and he's not willing to be used like a puppet by the regime, that you have contempt for him. You help a guy like that, right? It's like, and I saw a bunch of comments like this, right, where somebody talked about the long hair. I posted the verse about how long hair is it not what's the exact quotation? Does not nature itself teach you that long hair on a man is shameful? And a couple people said, yeah, I used to tell my friend about that all the time, and he had long hair like a girl. And, he didn't like it at first, but you know what? He cut his hair eventually. And guess what? A lot of other things about his life changed as well at the same time. He started taking the Lord a lot more seriously. Yeah, we ought to do that. You got a friend that loves the Lord, that, they're just starting out and they look like Jake Meader. You need to encourage that friend. Here's the thing, man. Like, I'm not saying you're gay, but like you're projecting a lot of gay vibes here, man. A lot of gay vibes. And so let's work on that, bro. Because I know you're not gay. I know you don't want to present yourself in this effeminate schlub kind of a way. So let's work on that, man. First things first. Let's cut your hair, man. I'll cover you. I'll take you over to Sports Clips or wherever it is. Jed's Barbershop, whatever it is. Take you there. Once you want, we work on growing a beard too. Growing a beard. Get you on a routine. We'll get you on some kind of an exercise routine. We're gonna help you out, man. We're gonna help you out. You got a friend that puts on girl clothes every now and then? Accidentally, of course. Help him out, man. Yeah, maybe you shouldn't put pictures of you wearing a blouse online. I don't know about that one. Or if he is doing it intentionally, rebuke him, because that's what love requires. You should love your neighbor as yourself. You shouldn't stay silent while they're sinning and spitting their nose, turning their nose up at the Lord's law and spitting in his face and re-crucifying Christ and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, I think I'm going to end it there. But here's the thing, guys. If you don't get anything else from this video, get this. The Big Eva standard is to try to manipulate you by putting these kind of people out there, and they're daring you to contradict them. And if you do, they're going to call you all kinds of names. I wouldn't be surprised if Mattson wasn't called names after this. Probably nobody watched this, so you know what I mean. Like probably no one called them names because nobody watches this. But when a guy comes at you saying, "Oh, we must trust the regime," and he looks like this, you cannot use his pathetic appearance and his just overall it's a shame. It's shameful what he's doing. Can't let it affect how you handle it. You tell him to go home and you challenge him directly. You do it. You could do it nice like Mattson, or you could do it like me, and it's okay. But they're going to use this, and they use women in this way, they use men in this way, and they're going to email you and tell you how hurt they are. And no, and you just got to look at them in the face and say, I understand all of that. Stop spreading lies in the church. Stop it. You stop that, and I'll stop what I'm doing. How about that? In any case, I hope you found this video helpful. God bless.